Hello, I'm Brad Carlton, and this is a monthly meeting of the Northeast Ohio People's Leadership Group. I got the name, okay. So in this meeting, we're actually going to be discussing the organization of the group. I'm going to discuss how we formed, and then we're going to discuss the leadership of the group. We're going to have a discussion about who's going to be in charge, who are the officers, what the officer positions are, and then we're going to discuss a little bit about an operating agreement that we made up on the way to making bylaws. So we didn't want to make it in one go, just a couple people behind closed doors. We wanted to have an ongoing discussion over several months about what it is that we are and how we're going to operate. So to begin, we are currently filed and registered as a for-profit corporation. And I know there were questions about that, so if anybody have any questions at the moment. Okay, I did send out an email explaining why we made that decision. It was Andy and I who just talked about it. The options are nonprofit corporation, for-profit corporation, and really those are the only two. And then when you have a nonprofit corporation, you can be a tax-exempt entity. So when we were talking it through, we looked at, what are our aims, what are our goals, what do we want to do in this group. We didn't really want to give to candidates. That wasn't what it was we wanted to focus on. There was no one in particular we wanted to look at. So that's that one. We set that one aside, okay. And then we figured, are we an issues group? Well, we're not quite an issues group. We want to be helping other organizations. That's really our goal, is to help other organizations, not necessarily focus on an issue. So we really weren't sure nonprofit was the way to go. Nonprofits are limited to donations. You can't really make or get much money outside of donations. When we looked at for-profit corporations, there's almost no limits whatsoever to what you can do with your money, how you can get your money. We figure, for now, let's just take a look at it, start as that. If we decide down the road, we can change it. So it's not set in stone. I know people were a little iffy about, oh no, we're a for-profit corporation, I don't want to make money. We personally, the members and officers of this organization don't have to make money. I personally wouldn't want this organization to have officers that make money, except to the point that if in the future this becomes a full-time job, we get a salary and that's it. Okay. Moving on, where do we want to go from here, Andy?
Let's go into the little bit about the history, some of the norms that we established in terms of working together, and that'll lead you into the operations document.
Okay, so this group began, was it Mustard Seed?
Yeah.
Okay, Andy, myself, a gentleman named Keith Mundy, and a lady named Sharon Berg sat down at Mustard Seed one day last January, and we were bemoaning the fact that the 2016 election had been so terrible for us. And what can we do? And we were looking at the landscape, and everybody was, well, let's do this, and let's do this, and let's do this, and let's do this, and let's do this. And everybody was saying exactly the same thing. But they all wanted to do it in their own little corner of the world, their own little fiefdom that they had control over. And we're like, well, you can't really do much if you're all broken up. I mean, I'm not a member of an organized political party, I'm a Democrat, was the joke we made. It's a joke that's been going on for years, and it's honestly the truth. So what we decided was Andy and myself, and at the time Keith, decided that let us create a group that helps organize the organizers. We want to create a hub and spokes model where all the different organizations are the spokes, and then they feed us information, feed us what they need, what they want, and we help spread it out to everybody else who's able to help. So instead of everybody being so insular and isolated, we're able to give everybody a broader reach. As for the norms, we meet here every third Tuesday of the month, currently at this office, but that's subject to change in the future depending on how things go. It's an informal group. I can just read our mission statement. This is an in-person working group that meets in person monthly and has been formed to help organize the organizers and develop leadership skills for increasingly large number of diverse activists and diverse events. Our mutually defined mission, by consensus of our members, is as a resource, touchstone, and clearinghouse for other progressive groups in Northeast Ohio. We work to avoid duplication of efforts by various groups, provide a regional multi-county perspective to grassroots organizing, and coordinate communications and activities across counties with the goal of promoting synergy between groups from the bottom up, grassroots, rather than the top-down political party approach. Okay, so that's our mission. And as to what our goal is, that is ongoing. We're always looking to find something more to do, is help somebody new, add new groups into the collective that we're working with. So it was a little over a month ago that we filed for the registration for the organization. Now we have to make the bylaws. So this document I have here, does everybody have a copy, Andy?
No.
Okay.
I have copies for them.
Okay. This is what we created. So it was myself, Russ Buckby, and Andy DeLito. And we sat down at some point this last month and we discussed where we want to go. And we realized that there was no way we would be able to get a formal bylaws in place in 1 month. There was just no way. So we set down the most basic of elements that we can discuss here as a group. So again, we have section 1, which is our purpose and our mission. The purpose is to develop grassroots leadership and identify best practices for grassroots organizing. As to the membership of this organization, we decided, and again, this is open for discussion, but this group is limited to those individuals who attend regularly, participate in meetings, and provide quantifiable benefits to the group outside the meetings. So we didn't want people to be members of the group if they would just jump in once and then out. Well, we don't want that person to be a member who could then vote 5 months from now when we have something important come up and they just pop back in and have never heard from them since. So we want people to be here regularly. We want people participating, coming in, and working with us. Okay. Members may vote on all issues brought to the group by the board, including decisions on the group's direction, goals, mission, activities, and fundraising efforts. So we want this to be a member-driven group. It's not just the board. The board is really kind of helps narrow things down, and then it's the membership that makes the final call. Membership may be lost if a member fails to attend multiple meetings in a row, if the member provides no value to the group at the meetings, or if the member provides no value to the group in between meetings as determined by the board. And again, that goes to the fact that this is a working group. We want people going out there working. It's not necessarily that you have to go to another group's meetings or be a liaison. Myself, I don't have any other involvement in politics except for this group. I used to run for office. I was active in the Democratic Party. I'm not anymore. I'm out. But I do back end stuff. I help manage the group on the back end. Okay. And again, meetings held on the third Tuesday of the month unless otherwise agreed upon by the group. Now, does anybody have any questions or issues with any of that?
One thing you might want to mention, Brad, is a lot of the organizing, quote unquote organizing, that has gone on since the election in 2016 on Facebook. And the feeling that we had that Facebook is a little deceptive. It gives people the impression that they're posting like mad and they're really doing something, when in fact it's very difficult to measure positive outcomes from being a member of a Facebook group.
Okay, Andy wanted me to bring up the fact, because no one can hear him, I have the mic, the fact that this is an in-person group, that what we saw was people on Facebook posting a lot, saying they were going to go to events, never showing up, and just a lot of hot air on the internet and nothing getting done. So we actually wanted boots on the ground. We wanted people here discussing, having a person in front of them and not having that anonymity of the internet in between you. That way we'd have a real dialogue and actually get things done. Okay.
Facebook doing something with the algorithms or something? There's some weird stuff.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that off camera after the presentation's over.
Okay. Okay, so the officers of the organization, because it is a organization, it's a company, it needs officers by law. So we have 3 static officer positions, the president, secretary, and treasurer, as well as up to 2 additional officers. And those can be floating, we can have them, we don't need to have them, it really is dependent on the needs of this group. All officers are entitled to vote on all matters of the organization. If the number of officers is an even number, any tie decisions by the officers will be broken with a coin flip, with a side taking the president's position being heads. Okay. The officers may remove anyone from the group that fails to meet the membership requirements, and may remove anyone from the Facebook group for any reason upon a majority vote of the officer. And the reason for that last part was because we have a lot of people in our Facebook group who don't do anything, or who do post every now and then, but it's antithetical to what we believe So we just wanted the right to be able to say we can remove them. Election of the officers shall take place at the annual meeting, which is this meeting, and we'll probably do that off camera. Okay. The annual meeting will occur at the March meeting of the group. That's this one. Board meetings will take place immediately prior to the membership meetings, as well as by email, phone call, and outside meetings as necessary. The president will lead the group, will organize the agenda, and will run the meetings as chair. And the secretary will keep track of the membership and will keep all meeting minutes. And the treasurer will keep track of all income and expenses, will pay taxes as necessary, and will provide an accounting to the group monthly. Is there any questions about how that's going to be structured? Great group. I love this group. It's the easiest group I've ever had to speak in front of. Okay, so that's the operating agreement or operating document that we made so far. Now, the next part, the bottom half of the second page, is what we want to see accomplished for the rest of the year. All right, so it's what we're going to be working on next month, month after that, in between meetings. Once we have these goals finished, we should be in a place that this group can then get out and do what it is we want to be doing, rather than always be dealing with the minutiae of operationals maintenance. Okay, so these are the goals for the current year. It is our goal to accomplish these in a timely manner so that we may proceed with engaging our purpose. So 1, we want to create a full and final operating framework for the group and a structure as to how it should operate. 2, create informational packets to give to other organizations so that they understand the nature of our services and products, which is something that we'll go over once I'm done covering this. We're going to establish representatives to other groups that may serve as liaisons between us and them so that we may better coordinate. Again, something I'll cover once we're done with this. We're going to determine what services and products that we may provide to other organizations to fully implement our purpose and mission. And finally, to establish committees within the group to handle the smaller tasks that cannot be performed at the board and membership meetings. Okay. Anybody have anything they want to add as a goal for the group?
Could you sort of lay out your vision of moving forward, how we'll do those things and how we'll get into the actual bylaws over a several-month period from where we're at today? So do you imagine that we're going to continue to have our bylaws meetings?
We will absolutely need to have bylaw committee meetings in between these meetings, which we can do over video chat, coffee shops, whatever. It doesn't have to be here.
Right.
But it does, those meetings, I mean, the one we had last time was 2 hours long,
Yeah.
and we got 1 page.
Yeah.
And I'm an attorney, and a 1-page operating agreement is just not enough for me. So we're going to be going at this for a little while. Okay. As for products and services, that is something that we can talk about a little bit now. Like I said, as a for-profit company, we can do pretty much whatever we want to make money, and we can pretty much do whatever we want with that money thanks to Citizens United. So, yeah, some of you are in here like, ooh, Citizens United, but to some extent, it's not that bad. We can do whatever we want. So Andy wanted me to ask and actually engage you. He didn't want me just to say what we're doing. He wants me to actually have each of you come up with an idea of what it is you want to see us providing to people in order to raise funds to be able to implement our purpose.
I think one of the first ideas was brought up by Michelle when we first formed, and we named our group a People's Group. And her idea was that we should have a People's Caucus, an actual event.
Okay.
As we began to flesh that People's Caucus out, and the idea behind it was that people who didn't identify with any party could just come to a town hall meeting type event and talk about the issues that they face every day, because obviously the two-party system is not hearing what the regular people are saying out there. So this is a thing we thought that we could offer to the broader community.
Okay.
We thought it was a good idea, and then as we started to move forward with our meetings, then we had to flesh this out and actually develop an events committee, find a venue, have a staff that could actually do the work on that, and that's the spoke portion of our model that we don't have in place yet.
Yeah, and just the developing, that was, oh God, that was like.
Okay. So to reiterate, I'm the only one with a mic, so now I have to somehow repeat all that back.
Right.
So Andy said that Michelle brought up at one of our first meetings that we want to do a people's caucus, something like a town hall meeting. That way we can provide a service to the community or to other organizations, give them a place to come to, have a discussion, and hash out the details of what it is they want to see happen. Okay, as a service that we would provide to the community at large.
Do you think, I don't know, it would be under that or separate, like in, like education type thing? I don't know how to.
What kind of education thing?
I mean, depends what,
Like issue education.
I guess it
kind of?
depends what it is, what the other group is, or, yeah, what the issue, whatever the issue may be.
Well, the
I
other
don't know
thing,
how to quite word
yeah,
it.
the other thing we worked on two other things, actually. We worked on question number 1, which was the drug price ballot issue, and we also worked on the gerrymander issue. So we did have some issues work that we did along the way.
Okay, so again, I have to reiterate. Michelle brought up that in addition to the People's Caucus, that we can hold some sort of educational seminars to be able to teach people about issues. And then Andy followed that up with
2 examples
2 examples. It was issue 1
on the medical
on,
drug
on
pricing
medical drug pricing and
and the gerrymandering.
gerrymandering, right,
Ballot
the
issue.
ballot issue.
Right.
Okay. But in addition to that, I know, like myself, I wrote a manual on campaign training. So that might be a service we might be able to provide to other organizations. Okay? Anything else? One that I brought up, one of the easiest things to make money on are products. Products, let me spell that right. So something like bumper stickers. They're not hard to make. They're actually fairly inexpensive to make. Down at the Akron Summit County Public Library, they have a big old vinyl machine. You can print 10 per foot for like 10 cents a bumper sticker. Sell them for 5, sell them for 10 at events we go to, just to raise capital to be able to host these things, to be able to have signage for the group. Okay,
Able to buy bottled water.
bottled water, yeah,
Right.
with our sticker on it.
Right.
Okay, any ideas, Gary?
We had talked about, under the educational seminar, we did have one we hosted in October, which was a professor from Denison University who came here and spoke about the federal job guarantee and
Right.
modern monetary theory. Now, in doing that, and Michelle spearheaded that, and I worked with her on that, it was a tremendous amount of work. And what this showed was that we are not fleshed out yet on our spokes. In other words, when we're trying to deliver a service, we don't have our infrastructure in place because a couple of us end up working ungodly hours to try to deliver one of the products.
Right, and that's something we can work on going into the future.
Right.
So, the first time you try anything is usually a miserable failure, but at least you learn a lot from it. But it wasn't a failure. We had a great time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we did. Anything else? Like,
We had
These-
an idea from
these
that,
first
Brad,
two.
on the t-shirts, remember?
T-shirts?
The t-shirts, and then we were gonna have a QR code on a t-shirt.
Right.
So we have technology where we can manufacture a t-shirt, and it has a QR code that anybody can scan with their phone, and it'll bring them to a series of websites on,
Like that's on the shirt. that you
it's
get?
actually on the
That's
shirt.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's say we were kicking off the gerrymandering effort where we were all hitting the, sidewalks with these petitions. It would have been helpful to have something like that, that Common Cause and the League of Women Voters we could have produced it for them.
Something more than a flyer to
Right.
throw away.
Right.
Okay.
And because what happened is they sent people out with petitions, and the people, it was such a complex issue, a lot of people weren't trained, and they weren't able to verbalize,
Right.
really effectively about such a complex issue in the state of Ohio. So,
Okay. So, I know these first two are really kind of where we want to be putting our efforts. Now, I have been on the board of a nonprofit before, and I'll tell you, money really is the number one concern. It always is, always has been, always will be in every organization ever. So we do have to figure out ways to generate capital. Who knew they were a capitalist in here? I think we had once discussed sending Gary out into the field and renting out his services. You up for that, Gary?
Yes.
Okay. So,
So let's go back over, why don't you draw the hub and the spoke up there. So what happens on a monthly basis is the hub, this is the hub, the physical place. The hub is all of us, and we have an input. Every month, we all get contacted by various groups that they're doing this, they're doing that, they're doing this. And so what we do is we collate all those inputs on a monthly basis. When we come together here on a monthly basis, we go on the board and we say, okay, what came in this month? And then we list everything that came in this month, whether it was Michelle, Gary, whoever it was. We put it up on the board and we say, okay, what can we do with these things that came into the hub? Okay, and then, you know, does somebody need us to help them with an event? Do we need to send out an email blast? Do we need to do something on Facebook? You know, what it is. So when the inputs come in on a monthly basis, then we have to look at what are the possible outputs that are needed and what can we deliver. So that's been basically the discussion of that at our monthly meetings.
yes. So we're a hub and spokes, just to reiterate. Not to scare you, but this is actually the smallest group we've had so far. We usually have many more people. Okay, so let's brainstorm a little bit. What kinds of services can we offer to other people? So these are what we would like to do, or at least these two. But what else can we offer?
Well, I think you need to put up there your campaign course. Although we're out of the cycle right now, Brad did write a campaign curriculum and has been used. People took that course and they did run for office after taking that course. So we have right there already one training product that we already have in the can. Okay, now I see, you know, fundraising, training for a lot of new groups, volunteer recruitment and retention. One of the biggest challenges in working with volunteers is people try to slot round pegs in square holes. And what organizations need to do is they need to have a really good way of working with volunteers to find out what the volunteer wants to do and what kind of work they have available, and put a good match together. When you put a bad match together, whether it's a campaign or an issues group or a progressive group, it's a recipe for disaster. You need to match people up with what they do well. Some people like to canvass, other people you don't want them canvassing, you know.
I guess my only concern with like the money part is that, you know, say it's an educational thing or the town hall, whatever. My only fear is people might not take it seriously. Oh, you just want to make money. That's just my fear, because people are struggling and people are hurting and people are strapped for cash, and they might say, oh, you just want money. That's my only concern.
I understand that, but there's also another saying out there, at least in the business community, that people don't appreciate what they get for free.
So if we offer, say, a training program in this room for 15 people, and it's a day-long program, what would we offer? We would offer materials, resources, training, possibly a lunch, and resources that they could take home with them. Now there's a cost associated with that. Is Michelle going to put that on her credit card? No. Ideally, what we would want to do is we would want to have some money it takes money to make money, so we want to cover those costs of delivering that service. So maybe we charge $10 for everybody that sits in one of these chairs. I don't know. Maybe we charge $15, you know, and everybody gets a box lunch and their materials. And so it's not like any one of us is like bearing the cost of putting that program on. You know, in a way, when the professor came from Denison, you know, for somebody like the professor, the economics professor that visited us, if he goes, he's, by the way, he's speaking in Columbus this weekend.
The DSA.
Yeah, he, if he went to another university,
You get paid.
he would get paid, he would get an honorarium on the order of $250 to $1,000, depending where he was going, and his travel expenses would be paid for. So the fact that we got him to come here, you know, for free, we didn't give him anything except a cookie and a cup of coffee, you know, we lucked out, really, because most people get paid to do that.
Okay. Now again, this is ongoing discussion. It's just a place to start. Something else that we can offer, white papers. So in addition to the educational seminars, actually just providing educational information. I know, Michelle, you're working on an MMT one, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
I added the Google document.
Mhm.
I don't know if you saw it or not.
Mm-mm.
Okay, but I added, I guess my thought is, like with the educational stuff, like say, I don't know, there's a group that wants single payer and they, obviously, and you know, we've talked about it, you know, the how do you pay for it thing. Like, okay, we can tell you how to pay for it. Like that sort of stuff.
So in other words, Debbie Fish from Akron, from the Single Payer Action Network of Ohio, she's the executive director, would say, oh, we're having our annual convention in Columbus, and we need a speaker on how are you going to pay for single payer in Ohio. Okay? So that would be her need, to have a speaker in her panel at the convention. So then what we could do is we could get hold of Professor Kaboo or whoever and say, look, you know, could you do this? You know, we would be like a broker, because one of the things we're seeing as we go out to groups, especially centrist Democrats, is with our progressive ideas about tuition and Medicare, the number one question is, how are you going to pay for it? And a good answer to those questions hasn't been evolving. So there's a piece of a dialogue there that's missing. A lot of the candidates aren't even able to do that. So Michelle, on the product that she's working on, you know, she's a product manager of this product, and what she's doing is she's working on messaging. You know, how do, and one thing that she does is she goes to other meetings and she engages in one-on-one conversations with people about how you're going to pay for it, okay? So, you know, I see her strength as sort of an outreach, you know, type person, because she does visit other groups, and she's good at bringing individuals into our group.
Okay, there is no way I'm repeating all that for the camera,
Right.
but what I will,
By the way, Barry has the mic set up, so he's catching it.
we're good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, springboarding off of that, outreach to other groups. One of the key points of our organization is the spokes. I mean, we're the hub, but we need spokes. So at the beginning of every meeting from now on, each person in the group is going to be expected to fill out two, what do you call them? Database entry forms.
Right.
So you put the name of an organization that you've been in touch with in the past month or that you haven't been telling us about, your contact person, what they're about, and just any other information we need to know about the group. That way we can add it to our database of people that we can reach out to if a need arises. Okay. And I think we have a handful so far. This is the first meeting that we've done
Here's
this.
3 that I did. For example, I did one here for our future, okay? Since Danielle's here tonight, for our future Ohio. The form has on it their website, which is forourfuturepac.org, and then a comment area. How did you find out about this group? Through Mark Gavin, through Danielle. And then what I have here is the contact information for Danielle, her phone number, her email, contact information for Mark in Youngstown, his email, his phone number, things I've done with Mark and Danielle so far. So that is like an input form that would then go into our database. So if anybody is looking for a resource, you know, they can see what I've done with the group, with your group so far. Another one that came in this month was from Russ Buckby. It's for a group called the Sunrise Movement in Canton, which is a climate change and job creation group. And Russ gave me this information, so I filled that form out. Now, what we are going to do at these monthly meetings is to bring these forms with us and give them to Brad every month, and then he will update the database. Now, Brad and I were in Cleveland in June for a program, and I was in a class with people from Policy Matters Ohio. So I filled out a form for them and described my activities with that group. So there's just some examples there.
And our goal is actually to get a member of each of these groups in here each month with us. That way we have an ongoing discussion of what it is everybody needs and how we can communicate best to resolve those issues. All right. Any questions, inputs?
No, I think we're ready to go off camera now and just do, get our officers lined up, if that's what you want to do tonight.
I don't think this is a meeting to have that vote.
Okay. Because we talked about it as being the March meeting,
It is. Okay.
you know,
Yeah, you're right. We have to have the vote. Okay. Legally, we do.
yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and